Martin Odegaard has been one of the driving forces behind Arsenal's title push this season, registering 15 league goals and almost delivering a first league title in just under 2 decades. However, it wasn't to be. But for Odegaard himself, this campaign has been a real statement, as he's begun to answer those critics who've suggested he was another overhyped wonder kid. Today, we're discussing how Real Madrid very nearly made sure he was exactly that. Stay with us. First of all, we have to talk about his incredible rise. In the early part of the last decade, there was an exciting buzz coming out of Drammen, Norway. The small town, located about 45 minutes southwest of Oslo and home to Strømgodset of the Norwegian Tippeligaen, had unearthed a rare talent, and scouts from all over the country were beginning to hear of a 13-year-old with magic in his boots. Considering the fact that he was already training with the first team, it wasn't long until the name of Martin Odegaard was being spoken of in footballing circles up and down the country, as well as Scandinavia in general. Soon after, teams like Manchester United and Bayern Munich were sniffing around the prodigious talent, and he hadn't even played for Strømsgodset youth team yet. That came shortly after, as he made his debut for Strømsgodset 3 at the age of 14. In January 2014, he was moved to the first team training setup full-time, and on 13th of April became the youngest ever player in professional Norwegian football, as he made his debut against Ailsons at the age of 15 years and 118 days. His first league goal came shortly after, but a kid of Odegaard's talent doesn't last long in the Norwegian league. After flirting with Premier League teams such as Liverpool and, somewhat ironically, Arsenal, as well as Bayern Munich again, Odegaard decided that his future lay in Spain with Real Madrid. In January 2015, it was announced that Madrid and Strømsgodset had reached an agreement for the transfer of the hottest young talent in European football for a reported fee of €3 million. Next up, we're discussing his early years in Madrid. Stay tuned. When a kid of a certain age goes to arguably the biggest club in the world at just 16 years old, there's always going to be a certain, somewhat inevitable, amount of media hype around him. When Martin Odegaard signed for Real Madrid, that hype was through the roof. Of course, being a child in a foreign country is always going to bring significant problems with it, and almost from the start, Odegaard struggled. It was announced to the media that the youngster would be playing for Real's reserve team, known as Real Madrid Castilla, but he was also training with the first team squad. At the time, Castilla were managed by Zinedine Zidane, who would later go on to manage the first team. The problem was that whilst Castilla were training, Odegaard was off with the first team, so he had no chance to get to grips with how the reserve team played and build up relationships with the players around him. This ultimately resulted in him being dropped from the Castilla team after a string of defeats, with some around the Madrid setup suggesting that the Norwegian had been hung out to dry by the management. It didn't help that Madrid fans were expecting Odegaard to come in and take the league by storm. I mean, he didn't even speak Spanish and reportedly struggled with the language from the off. So the pressure on his young shoulders was incredible from the start. Despite these early problems, Odegaard was included in Carlo Ancelotti's first team squad towards the end of his first season in Madrid due to injuries to some of their star players, although he didn't end up featuring. What happened next then? After being around the first team for almost 2 calendar years, Odegaard finally made his first team debut for Real Madrid in November 2016 at the age of 18. However, that would be his only appearance of the season, and he was soon shipped out to Holland and Heerenveen on loan. During this period, Madrid were experiencing instability in the dugout, which adversely affected Odegaard and his chances of nailing down a first-team starting position. When the chance to play regular first-team football came up, it was a chance he knew he had to take in a bid to resurrect his faltering career. Whilst Odegaard didn't win any trophies thanks to the dominance of Ajax, PSV and Feyenoord, he did enjoy regular first-team football for the first time in his career at Heerenveen. He also consistently showed off his technical and creative skills. After spending 2 seasons on loan with Heerenveen, Odegaard once again returned to the Eredivisie to play for Vitesse Arnhem, a loan move which might be considered his most successful. During his time with Vitesse, he was voted their Player of the Year and was also selected in the Eredivisie Team of the Year. However, Odegaard had signed with Real Madrid for a reason. He wanted to make a success of himself, so decided that the following season he would return to the Spanish capital to fight for his place in the side. After seeking assurances from management, Odegaard was under the impression he would be given more regular first-team opportunities. But in the cutthroat world of top-class European football, the big boys don't always keep their word. He made just 7 league appearances in the 2019-2020 season, before deciding enough was enough. So why was he continually let down in Madrid? Having been consistently frozen out by successive managers, and most infamously club legend Zinedine Zidane, Odegaard decided to call it quits in 2020. Looking back on his time at Los Blancos, now that the dust has settled a little, it seems as though the move was just completely wrong from the start. To sign to Real Madrid at such a young age with a ton of hype around you takes mental strength, the likes of which most people just simply don't have. Add to that the fact that Real Madrid have some of the best players on the planet at any given time, then his task in the Spanish capital started to look insurmountable. What Madrid should have done was nurtured him and taken him out of the spotlight for the first 2 years at least. Instantly having him in and around the first team squad did nothing for his development, nor the management of fan expectations. Like any other 16-year-old, Odegaard would have been better off making his way through the youth teams. But as we know, that's not how things are done at Circus Real. The hierarchy decided that column inches were more important than the mental health and career development of Martin Odegaard. Of course, it isn't just on Madrid. The Norwegian's family and advisors should have realised that the odds of him becoming a success at Real at such a young age were slim to none, which is a shame. Being Scandinavian and an English speaker, a better option would have been a Premier League team. Next up, we're talking redemption. As we mentioned, Odegaard's game time was seriously limited in 2019 to 2020, and when Arsenal extended an olive branch in January 2021, he didn't waste any more time. During the second half of that season, the now 22-year-old played 20 games for the Gunners, acquiring another taste of the regular first-team football he had become accustomed to in the Netherlands. Thanks to some stellar performances, including being voted Arsenal's Player of the Month in March 2021, manager Mikel Arteta decided to end Odegaard's Madrid nightmare once and for all. On August 20th, 2021, he signed a 4-year deal with the men from North London, finally giving up on fighting for a first-team place in Madrid. On reflection, Odegaard will almost certainly be happy with his decision, as he's been a revelation for the Gunners since joining. 2021 to 2022 can probably be seen as a bedding-in period for the Norwegian, as well as plenty of his teammates too, for that matter. With Mikel Arteta finally beginning to get his ideas across, there were glimpses of what might be around the corner for the Arsenal. That promise was realised this season, as Martin Odegaard finally put to bed his demons. Yes, the first part of his career hasn't exactly gone to plan, but this season, Odegaard has proven that there actually is a player in there. A player who has the ability to take a team to the brink of Premier League glory. Of course, Arsenal fell just short this time out, but Martin Odegaard is going nowhere. With 15 goals and 7 more assists this season, the Norwegian will now be expected to repeat these sorts of numbers on a consistent basis going forward. So what does the future hold for Odegaard? For someone who has been subjected to so much professional trauma over his short career so far, it is a testament to the man that has been able to put all of that behind him. We've seen wonder kids with huge hypes behind them fail on plenty of occasions. I mean, Freddie Adu, anyone? Ravel Morrison? The list goes on and on and on. First and foremost, Arsenal's number 8 should be viewed as a role model, not the cautionary tale he was once being touted as. Yes, Odegaard has truly turned his career around, despite Real Madrid's best efforts to ruin it. As we all know, you don't play for Madrid without having a bit about you. And although Arsenal aren't quite held in the same regard, it's no shame at all to be playing your trade at the Emirates. Odegaard should win trophies. He's easily good enough. Whether that's at Arsenal or not is yet to be seen. With the emergence of Erling Haaland, the future also looks bright for Odegaard at an international level too. Of course, Norway won't be expected to win any tournaments, but with those two in the team at the top end of the pitch, they will almost certainly be expected to qualify more consistently. Norway's men's team haven't qualified for a major tournament since the turn of the century, a statistic both Haaland and Odegaard will be hoping to put right sooner rather than later. Do you guys see Odegaard leading Arsenal to silverware? Let us know below. As usual, thanks for joining us today, and remember to tune in next time when we'll be discussing loads more cool bits and pieces. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video, whilst also subscribing to our channel. Bye guys.